objective to build capacity for disaster risk management, the Civil Defense Commission rolled out the Voluntary Emergency Response Team, or VERT program, in March of 2019. This saw participants being trained in a number of key areas in disaster response. The VERT program, which is being executed over a one-year period, has exposed volunteers to several critical training exercises. On this InfoHub Extended, we take a look at the specialized training the VERTs have received thus far.
The future of Guyana has never looked better. Our nation is on the cusp of a development program like never seen before. While Guyana is now emerging as an energy giant through the discovery of massive reserves of oil and natural gas, it is your government's intention that the huge benefits emerging from this will go where it matters most, to you, the people of this beloved country. There is a surge of confidence in the way Guyana is governed once again, and the level of investor interest is unprecedented. Guyana is poised to become the breadbasket of the region, and the pace at which this nation will grow through prudent fiscal management will be nothing short of impressive. But more than anything else will be the way every Guyanese, regardless of color, class, or creed, becomes a part of this historic period of national transformation, sharing in the wealth and well-being of it all as one Guyana.
Members of the Civil Defense Commission's Volunteer Emergency Response Team are taking their disaster response training up a notch. Over the weekend of October 4 to 6, the team traveled up the Essequibo River to the Colonel Robert Mitchell Jungle and Amphibious Training School at Makuria, where they underwent a rigorous 3-day survival training course. The volunteers arrived at the location on Friday morning and immediately began training with a crash course in tying basic knots before engaging in a river crossing exercise. Over the 3 days, the participants were tested mentally and physically as they battled the heat, lack of access to basic amenities, and sleeping in the jungle to complete the training. Several of the volunteers described the experience as a very humbling one. Jeffrey Walcott, an engineer attached to the Ministry of Public Infrastructure, said the overall experience was unforgettable and a bit of a roller coaster ride. It was a combination of several things that made the experience not only challenging, but along the same lines, being able to overcome those challenges was fulfilling. The mental frustration that comes from not knowing what to expect, being pushed mentally and physically, exhausted, having basic amenities removed, and having to endure all of these things in an environment like the jungle really does push your mental limits. But again, having a strong team to support you, understanding that disaster situations come unexpectedly, and being trained in the necessary skills that would help you survive is what made the whole process formative and worthwhile. The knowledge is invaluable and it helps you to appreciate the little things in life. Environmental and Social Safeguards Technical Officer Christopher Singh expressed that it's beneficial because it helps to prepare us to handle any situation that may arise from a disaster. Added to that, the program's training consisted of relevant elements that are applicable to an emergency situation. The jungle and amphibious training allowed us to become aware and cognizant of our surroundings and how to maximize the use of available resources to survive, which is necessary in a disaster situation. It also served as a great team-building exercise as it was conducted in a military setting where camaraderie and accountability of each other is expected at all times. Officer in command at the CRM JATS, Captain Eon Cameron, explained that the training will see the VERT participants being exposed to the basic components of survival training.
Today we're here with the VERT from the CDC doing a 48 hours survival training. Yesterday we would have covered the tactical river cross, where we saw the team had to tactically cross the Mokoro River. Before they execute this, they had to look at the various water obstacles, look at the safety involved when crossing water obstacles, the selection of place of crossing, and the tactics when crossing the water obstacles.
Director General of the CDC, Lieutenant Colonel Kester Craig, in brief remarks, underscored the importance of the training.
For the VERTs, this is a critical juncture in their training. You endure mentally and physically about over 48 hours of jungle survival training that is laced with military type of activities. The exposure that you have gained here over the last 2 days is very difficult to acquire any part of the world. The training is to develop you as an individual.
Prior to the survival training exercise, participants of the VERT program were also exposed to instruction in another important aspect of the disaster risk response program, that is handling an oil spill.
Earlier in May this year, the Civil Defense Commission, in collaboration with ExxonMobil, conducted a training workshop which exposed members of the team to key aspects of an oil spill response. The 3-day event was held in May and wrapped up with members of the VERT program participating in a stimulation exercise at Splashman's Resort on the Linden-Soosdijk Highway. In an invited comment, ExxonMobil Oil Response Advisor Thomas Tomlin said he was impressed with the team's response.
Well, what we're doing is we're trying to grow the capacity of the CDC and then the Voluntary Emergency Response Team. And we were fortunate enough that they asked us to come in and help. And what we did is had a 2-day classroom that had incident command system, ICS training. We did some simulated exercises. One of them was how to plan the Masharmani for 2020. And then today we're going out into the field and deploying equipment. Each one of the teams, team 1 through 5, are going to train on each one of the pieces of equipment. We've got containment boom, we've got skimmers, we have shore seal boom, we have shoreline protection. And so they're gonna get a good opportunity to test all of those techniques.
CDC Director General Lieutenant Colonel Craig disclosed that the oil spill response training would be a continuous element of CDC's training program.
Apart from testing some of the equipment that we would have acquired, we also able to test some of our own resources like our boats, our engines, and see how it fits into the operation. So it's not only the volunteers that are being tested, the staff of the Civil Defense Commission, they're also being tested as related to oil spill response. In developing the oil spill response system, it's going to be a system that's going to be progressively being elaborated. So every year, every month, we'll be working on different elements.
The participants expressed satisfaction with the training.
It was actually good for me. It is a learning experience, and also you would have identified challenges that could occur in the event that if Guyana do have an oil spill.
It's been fun and exciting for most of us. While it was also fun and exciting as one of a learning experience, they have brought so many new knowledge to many of us here since we're not been experienced before in the oil and gas sector. We're better able or prepared to respond to in the event of any oil spills that can happen or occur.
I first must say that we had the first 2 days was been a remarkable event. We've learned a lot in terms of oil spill management. I think we have a perfect team supporting us. That's organized by ExxonMobil, CDC, and SEDEMA. I was pretty much impressed with most of the systems that was taught. Some of it was relatively new to me, and I think that we're well on our way in terms of having a resilient society.
The volunteers also received critical training in first aid response.
The exercise, which was held at the CDC's Thomasland headquarters, saw volunteers engaged in an interactive session where they learned the importance of first aid as well as the necessary skills to render assistance first aid in emergency situations. The volunteers were placed into groups where they enacted various emergency situations which were analyzed. The facilitator of the workshop, Fayon Jordan, who is a certified first aid trainer, said while the training focuses on basic first aid response, the volunteers are being trained to respond to multiple casualties.
Well, basically the training entails everything first aid: bleeding, fractures, bruise, even CPR, as you could have seen. And we're covering a wide variety of things, even multiple casualties we're doing. So we're not just focused on individual first aid, but multiple casualty as well, because in case of disaster risk, we should be able to handle all of those.
This critical component of the training program was considered vitally important by the VERT participants.
The training itself is quite a holistic one in that we are exposed to different facets of the process and what it is to be a first aid responser. So far we've been exposed to different scenarios in which we could apply first aid as well as the steps in which we should take.
This first aid training is very important, not just only for me but for everyone else who is taking part of it, because whatever we learn from here is basically to take back to our communities for a purpose, for a benefit.
The Voluntary Emergency Response Team program wraps in 2020. At the end of the program, the participants will be fully trained to handle any disaster situation, ensuring that there is a qualified core of volunteers who can be called upon in times of emergencies. You've been watching InfoHub Extended. Thanks for watching. Do join us again next time. Goodbye.
The future of Guyana has never looked better. Our nation is on the cusp of a development program like never seen before. While Guyana is now emerging as an energy giant through the discovery of massive reserves of oil and natural gas, it is your government's intention that the huge benefits emerging from this will go where it matters most, to you, the people of this beloved country. There is a surge of confidence in the way Guyana is governed once again, and the level of investor interest is unprecedented. Guyana is poised to become the breadbasket of the region, and the pace at which this nation will grow through prudent fiscal management will be nothing short of impressive. But more than anything else will be the way every Guyanese, regardless of color, class, or creed, becomes a part of this historic period of national transformation, sharing in the wealth and well-being of it all as one Guyana.